Hello? Whoever's here. Nobody in the participants list, so. Say hello in the chat so I know who's here. We'll wait a couple of minutes. It's just getting to about 8 o'clock right now. We'll get stragglers coming in. Oh, John, Belangotam, Audrey, welcome. Hello, Audrey. Hello, Millionaire, welcome. Hello, Jessica, good to see you. Hello, Douse. All right, let's get started with some chanting. A short one today. We're going to do the bottom of page 73. Tilakanagata. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Sabbe sankara anicchati yadda panyaya passati atta nibindati dukke esa maggo visuddhiya. Sabbe sankara dukkati yadda panyaya passati atta nibindati dukke esa maggo visuddhiya. Sabbe Dhamma anattati yadda panyaya passati atta nibindati dukke esa maggo visuddhiya. English. Impermanent is all that is conditioned. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purity. Unsatisfactory is all that is conditioned. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purity. Without self are all dhammas. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purity. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, you have Sana. Okay, Adriana, welcome. Good. So this is actually very profound little thing, right? So when you see something with the mindset of vipassana, right? What you see is what? The three characteristics of existence. Anicca, dukkha, anatta, right? Buddha's saying the path to purity is seeing these three characteristics. That is the path to purity. That is why we want to practice getting into jhanas, so that we can more easily see those three characteristics, right? When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering, this is the path to purity, right? So this is the key. This is what you want to see. And you can see this in Anapanasati. You see this towards the end of the 16 steps, right? Observing impermanence, right? These kind of things. So this is very, very short but profound chanting today. And so, friends, I'd like to welcome you to Dhammapalooza. We are doing another Dhammapalooza. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make this announcement at the end as well. But we have a little bit of changes coming for me and the channel. Temporary changes, because all is impermanent. But in about a month from now, actually a month from now, I'll be in California. The 13th of July, I'm going to be taking a flight to California. I'm going to be spending my Vasa out in the at the Aranya Bodhi Hermitage with the Bhikkhunis, and that's Ayatataloka's place. All right, I'm going to be spending my my Vasa there, and I'm going to be pretty much no computer or anything like that. I'll check in every once in a while. Maybe I'll make a video every once in a while just to say hello. But about a month from now, so we have 3 Dhammapaloozas left after this, right? And in about a month from now, I'm going to be pretty much no Dhammapaloozas, no morning monastery experiences from July, August, September, October, November. All right, so it's going to be a while. It's going to be quite a while. I'm going to be in California. 3 to 4 months, somewhere's around there. So again, Dhammapalooza is going to go away. Morning monastery experience is going to go away. All that stuff. So while we have Dhammapalooza for the next couple of weeks, let's try to make the best of it. And of course, obviously, I mean, unless I get, killed by a grizzly bear or something in the woods, unless a grizzly bear comes up to my tent and takes me out, when I get back, we'll do Dhammapalooza again. But this is a very good thing for monastics. Actually, it's a very good thing for monastics, and it's a very good thing for laity as well, right? Because laity should not be too dependent on monastics, right? Because then monastics never get to go away in seclusion. And everybody needs to do that. Lay people need to go away in seclusion, like I did, right? 3-4 times a year, I would go to Bhavana, even if it was just for a weekend, to get the heck away, get some seclusion from my life, right? And so monastics need seclusion as well. And I'm going to try to enjoy living in the woods in a tent for a couple months, and then visiting some monasteries and other people I know in California after that. So this is just a heads up. And again, I'll say it towards the end too, because usually the people who start are not all the people who end up on a Dhammapalooza. It is a long thing. So friends, I'm not seeing anybody brand new in the chat. If you are brand new and you have an account and you'd like to say hello in the chat, please feel free to do so. We like to meet new people, and every Dhammapalooza, there's a chance from somebody in some random place in the world to join and say hello. So it's always neat when we do that. So just in case there is anybody brand new here who's watching the Dhammapalooza, what we do here is a 2-hour festival of Dhamma. Hey, Sierra, well, welcome. During this 2-hour festival of Dhamma, we do a little bit of everything. It's like a Dhamma smorgasbord, or a Dhamma. What's that thing where you go to the restaurant and that you get to pick where you eat, whatever. I forgot. It's been so long since I ever went to those anyway. But anyway, this is where we do all kinds of different Dhamma-related activities. We did some chanting. Later, we're going to do a buffet. There it is, Dhamma buffet. Right? We'll do some chanting. Later on, we're going to do some guided meditation. In between that, who knows? It's up to you guys. So we're going to see right now, what I like to do is allow the community to have a hand in guiding how this is going to go. And all right, the chat, good stuff. So we're going to have time and we're going to have the community have a chance in guiding how this is going to go. If you are new, please feel free to type in the chat. No problem. I like when the community gets to discuss with each other, talk to each other, get to know each other in the chat. That's not bothering me. That's not an interruption. That's a good thing. Right. Also, if you have any questions for me that you'd like me to answer, any topics you'd like me or the community as a whole to discuss, please feel free to type those in the chat. All right. Or if you have if you have a sutta you'd like us to read, I have a sutta for us to read in case, because every Dhammapalooza is different. Sometimes it's just straight hour and a half of Q&A. Sometimes it's, nobody has anything to say, so we read suttas. Sometimes it's a mix of all that. Yet last week was a mix. We read some suttas, we did some Q&A, we did some discussion. It was a good mix. So if you have any comments, topics, questions, etc., feel free to put that in the chat. I'll wait a minute or two just to see what comes up in the chat. And then if nothing comes up, we'll do some reading. Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. All good things have come to an end. Thank you for the lesson on impermanence and for modeling self-care. Yeah. Well, see, this is, I figured this out back in 2019, right? 2019, I did, was the apex of my craziness, right? I had, so there's 12 months in a year, right? So I had 14 retreats at Bhavana to coordinate and to take part in teaching in. And I did like 11 travel teachings. Like, it was insane. It was just because people kept inviting me to go places to teach. And I was like, I love doing that. I do that anytime. But I realized, wait a second, the last couple of years, my practice has been shot, right? Because I'm just all giving, going out, teaching Dhamma, being with people, or running a monastery, organizing this, organizing that. And I was like, whoa, where's time for me? Usually like in a Thai forest place, a junior monastic, you don't even barely see a peep out of them for 5 years. They're just, they're just there in the background, right? So I realized, wait a second, I need to start taking more time. And I decided 2020, I'm not going to accept any teaching invitations at all. Right? I was still going to have to do everything I need to do at Bhavana. But 2020, I wanted to be just for me that year, just to go to monasteries and to learn from different senior monastics and see how monastics live, and just for my own growth, right? And 2020 turned into what? We all know what 2020 turned into, which was also good for my own growth. But so I decided, I came up with the idea that like every 5th year, I want to take a year and go on a sabbatical, right? Where I would not do any teachings. I would just, go into the woods, do my own thing, etc. And I think that's a good idea. Like, and so I thank you, Elaine, for taking that point of modeling self-care, because that's actually very important. As somebody who worked in child protective services, as somebody who's had, depression and issues in the past, and who's also had a therapist and stuff like that, self-care is very important to me, right? And I teach it all the time. When I talk about metta, I talk about metta to yourself. And you can't you can't secure somebody else's mask if you're passed out, and all these things, right? And here I was passing out, right? So I needed to start focusing more on myself, right? Because focusing more on myself would allow me to better help you guys. Right. So this is very important. I don't think there's a part of me that's actually sad that I'm not going to do Dhammapalooza for 4 months. Like I'm thinking, oh, well, I mean, it's kind of nice. Like I kind of I'm a little worried about the activity on the channel going like that. But on the other hand, it's much more important that I take care of myself. So, yeah. Oh, Douse. This person asked the most commonly asked question, at least in Western Buddhism. I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience of what people in Thailand and Sri Lanka are talking to monks. But in terms of people who are getting into Buddhism and questioning and trying to understand Buddhism, I have heard this question. I've heard this question asked a couple hundred times, and I've answered this question probably 30 to 40 times myself. Right? This is such a very common question. If there's no self, if there's no soul, then what is reborn? Right? Quick and dirty answer is processes, the 5 aggregates. Right? That's it. It's just 5. You drop one set of 5 aggregates, you pick up another set of 5 aggregates. It's just a process. Right? There's no, what we do is we assign a character, we assign ownership to those 5 aggregates as me, mine, and myself. Right? But in this lifetime, when I die, I'll drop the 5 aggregates of a human. Next lifetime, I might have the 5 aggregates of a deva. I don't know. The 5 aggregates of a hell being. Who knows? Right? So it's the quick and dirty answer is it's simply a process. It's dependent origination. It's causes and conditions that are creating more causes and conditions that are pushing you forward. And it's all fueled by what? It's fueled by craving. Right? So it is craving that is fueling the mind to go from one life to the next life. It's simply processes. And these processes we attach meaning to as me, mine, and myself. Sierra Bante, you mentioned a big chunk of newly ordained monks disrobe. Did I? Have I said that specifically? I would say the majority of monks disrobe. I don't know about newly ordained. Usually there's a bit of a honeymoon period for a couple of years at least. I mean, of the myself, when I moved to Bhavana, it was myself and 2 other people ordained, and I'm the last one left. Right? And this is something that you see. It's quite often. I think there's in the Tibetan tradition, they estimate about 75% of the people who are ordained disrobe. And I think that's probably about the same or even more in Theravada. A lot of it is because in places like Thailand, there's a lot of temporarily taking up ordination as in respect for your parents, so you can be seen as the possible good husband, material, these kind of things. So there's lots of temporary ordination, but it's not an easy life. And there's all kinds of things. The number one, as far as I can tell, the number one reason why a monk, I don't know if Bhikkhuni disrobe. I mean, Bhikkhunis still pretty young. There's not that many of them. So there's not that much, there's probably not that much data for this. But, as far as I can tell from my understanding of being around, talking to lots of monks and kind of getting the the feeling of what's going on is like most monks who disrobe do it because they found a love interest, right? And of course that makes sense, right? We have drives, we have sexual drives, food drives, companionship drives, all these things. So it makes perfect sense that this would happen. Ajahn Chah, there's actually there's so many things that I kind of just connect with Ajahn Chah on. It's just amazing. But like he talks about, like I said, I'm the last one of the people who were ordained while I was at Bhavana. A gentleman disrobed. A gentleman right before me became a monk, and he's still a monk. He became a monk like two years before me. So I was visiting Bhavana, and I was actually at his ordination. He's still a monk, but the other two are not. And that's just the way it is. It shouldn't be seen as like a lifetime vow, because it's never meant to be that way, right? So Ajahn Chah tells the story of how him and a bunch of his friends and a bunch of different people, they all went to ordain for the Vasa, which is a common thing. Like, I'm going to go become a monk for a couple months to honor my parents, etc. Right? And he talks about how he just watched his friends one by one just drop, just disrobe. And he said at the end, he's like, well, I'm the only one left. I guess there's nothing to do with practice. Right? So when I heard the last one, when I heard that the last of the two disrobed, I said, well, it's nothing to do with practice. Right? This is just the way it is, right? Anybody who's kind of lasted long enough, like anybody who's been a monk for 10, 15, 20 years, I bet you they have seen 10 to 15 people at least disrobe, people that they knew. It's just, that's the way it goes. Hey, John is talking about keeping us from reading again. Ay, ay, ay. A millionaire, yes. Yeah, we'll read some suttas. I love the little back and forth between you guys. That's great. Okay. Oh, chat just jumped a little bit here. Dow says, Sierra, maybe they realize it's not like they thought in their imagination. This is something, and I have to admit, I'm probably still in the jaded phase. But like, you don't really know how the monasticism is until you really get into it. Like, there's a lot of idealization, especially among Westerners, of what the monastic life is. Right. And it's just not that. It's not. Right. There's this kind of like almost like, fantasizing. Oh, wow, is this going to be this and that? And, all these things. And it's like, oh, this is not exactly what I expected. And then I was like, well, maybe it's just me and my sect. Maybe it's just this place here. And then you talk to other people like, oh, it's not just this place here. Right? This is how it is, so all of the kind of like the stereotypical idealized versions of monasticism do kind of exist in individual spots. Like, this part kind of does exist here and this part kind of does exist here, but I've not heard or seen a place or some kind of place where like the total idealized monasticism is realized. And that's because idealized views of things are not reality. That's just the way it is. John says, are you planning on assigning us some chanting and suttas as homework before you go to the reigns? Can you give us a test afterwards? No. Your own test is within you, and you will pass or fail that test. Right? I always suggest to read suttas. Read one sutta a day and go through the different nikayas and read the suttas. Maybe I'll give Adriana something. I think maybe Adriana deserves it. Sure, you guys can do something on Tuesday night. On Monday night, if you want to do something on the Discord, right? You can do something Monday night. It's up to you guys. I encourage you guys, getting together and doing these things. Like on the Discord for years, if there wasn't a monk involved, I would say just read the sutta. Just do your best. Try to Google what Thanissaro Bhikkhu says about the sutta, what Bhikkhu Bodhi says about the sutta, what Ajahn Brahm says about the sutta, and then just bring that in, right? There are way more many kind of Buddhist organizations and Buddhist groups in America than there are monks to be with them. I know because I've been to many of them in many different states, right? They're so kind of dying for monks that even want to bring me there for some reason. But that's just the way it goes. All right. Sierra says it's not a lifetime vow normally. No. I thought when you go into it, you were expected to be there for life. In Sri Lanka, that's the case, and that's unfortunate because that's not how it was. That's not like so. I can give you an example. There's one of the monastic rules is that you can only disrobe and reordain up to 7 times. I think that pretty much cancels out that view, right? There's a monk. He became a monk, and he's like, "Oh, I think I'm going to disrobe," and then he became a monk, and I'm going to disrobe, and he became a monk. And finally, the Buddha's like, "Okay, no, it's done. Now this is it. If you want to become a monk, this is the last time." And he says, "Okay," and he became a monk. So there's the rule is that basically. Interestingly enough, it's been a while since I read the rule, and I was talking to Bhante Pamuto about this. We were talking about this, and he actually, I thought you had to get your robes, go to another monk, and say the lines, and then that was it. You were not a monk anymore. But he says that and I have to clarify this myself, but he says you don't have to do it to a monk. You just do it to anybody, just to a human being. And so I could be hanging out with Adriana or Reed or any of you, and I could be like, I'm done. I'm going to say the words, and now I'm not a monk anymore. And then, 2 years after that, I kind of feel regret. I could say, well, it's time to be a monk again and go back. I can do that up to 7 times. So no, it's not meant to be. And that's kind of the way it should be, right? If you're feeling and this is what I mean, like my impression of a lot of the Sri Lankan monks, especially the ones that have been monks since they were kids, is that they're kind of like in their 20s and their 30s now, and you can tell they kind of don't want to be there anymore, but they're kind of stuck because it would bring shame on their family, and so they just sit around and watch TV and kind of just go to blessings, and like they're not really in it. They're not really really wanting to be in it, but they're kind of stuck, right? Where in Thailand, if you're done, you just like Davinia says, you say the words and you're done. That's it, so Dow says 7 times and then it's permanent until next rebirth. Yes, exactly. It's in with this one life. Correct. No, John, it's 7 times and you're in. 8 times and you're out. Adriana, I think you should be thanking Sierra because she's rapid firing these questions, keeping us from reading the suttas. I'm glad you have questions, Sierra. Dallas is great. After 7 times, the Buddha says, "We are not amused." Yeah. All right, Sierra has a question. Bhante, I recently heard of a Buddhist lay teacher who doesn't believe in reincarnation, and I was surprised. What's your thoughts on people who are Buddhist but don't believe in reincarnation? It depends on what you mean by don't believe. Are they open-minded about it? Well, are they agnostic about it, or are they atheistic about it? Meaning atheist is like, there's no rebirth, doesn't exist. Right? Or are they, well, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I can keep an open mind about it, but I don't really believe in it. Right? So there's the 2 different modes. Right? Because, I mean, in all honesty, I can't say 100% that I believe in rebirth either. I've not seen it for myself. Right? I mean, I'm probably at about 95%. Right? And in the words of Jordan Peterson, Jordan Peterson was asked if he believed in God, and he says, "Well, I act in like I do," right? Because what he was saying is, what's more important is not what you say; it's what you do. Like that's where you really know the meaning, and that made me realize, like, I'm not necessarily 100% in belief of rebirth, but I actually live like I 100% believe it. I live as if I will be reborn again if I don't become awakened in this life. So it's a tough question, right? You shouldn't. There is an element of faith in Buddhism. And by faith, I don't mean like people, like a lot of Westerners, like, well, they don't really mean like blind faith. It's kind of like more of like a confidence. No, there's literal, actual, like Catholic-like faith in Buddhism. That's 100% true, right? That's 100%. So there are some people who have that kind of strong faith in the Buddha, that if the Buddha says there's awakening, they believe there's awakening, right? And that's it. I'm not that person. I'm not a faith follower. It's just not in me. It didn't work for me in Catholicism, and it doesn't work for me in Buddhism, right? So I have to kind of see things for myself, right? And in following the path and reading the suttas and seeing how the Buddha's just hitting home runs. I mean, the Buddha's, I mean, I don't think I've read anything in the suttas where I'm like, yeah, I don't think the Buddha's right on this one. Like the Buddha has just so matched my experience of life. And so I've developed so much confidence in him, and he's been so right so much of the time that I got to a point where I was like, you know, he's right all this time. I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think I'm going to say, well, you know, I mean, I haven't seen it for myself, and I'm one of those people that you kind of have to see it for yourself in a way. But he's been right all this time. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And that's why I say, like, I'm at about 95%. I mean, even as a kid, I would talk about like, you know, like a 9 or 10-year-old kid, you know, I'd be like on, you know, being my altar boy thing. And I'd be, you know, here's the cross, and I'm, you know, the priest is doing his thing, and, you know, drink this in memory of me. And I'm thinking like, I'm pretty sure I was Alexander the Great. No, maybe Julius Caesar, maybe both. You know, so like there's this interesting dynamic in me that has always kind of preferred that. Right. So, you know, it's interesting. Again, I can't say 100%. but I can say 95%. Now, if there's a Buddhist teacher that says, this is all bull, this is stupid, I'm not going to do, they're not a Buddhist teacher. They're just not. They can call themselves a Buddhist teacher. They're not a Buddhist teacher, right? If you say that, if you throw away karma and rebirth, you are not a Buddhist teacher. It doesn't exist, right? You can be a quasi, maybe even say quasi, because there's such thing as secular Buddhism, quasi-Buddhism, but you're not a Buddhist teacher, right? It's just the way even if they say, well, the Buddha wasn't really talking about literal rebirth, or it wasn't talking about like literal like life karma. Yeah, he was. You're not going to convince me otherwise. It's very clear in the early text that this is what he's talking about. So, we got some good comments going on in this. Sierra, you hit some gold in this one. Very good. Agnostic Club. Yep, the only reasonable position. Actually, Daus, I agree with you. I think it is the most reasonable position. I really do. But a lot of people don't like agnostics. Oh, boy. I agree exactly with what you said, Daus. Yeah. Ajahn Brahmali said that, this is a good question, John, because I've actually thought about this as well, right? Because I think about like science and the universe and things like that. And I guess I realized, I think I was telling when Reed and I went to the retreat, I was telling this, like, I actually realized like about a year or two ago, like I'm actively trying to disprove Buddhism. Like I'm actively trying to kind of be like, let me see, does this science kind of not disprove? I mean, and I've not seen it. I mean, obviously karma and rebirth are non-falsifiable, meaning like science can't really prove that. It just can't. But so he says, Ajahn Brahmali said that if science could prove there was no rebirth, he would disrobe immediately. And I thought that's shocking. So I've actually come to the opposite conclusion. If Judeo-Christian God came down from the sky, Jesus came back, and he says, this Buddhism thing, it's not right. Or maybe scientists somehow figured out, they found out there's literally nothing after death. Right? I would still be a Buddhist monk. Or at the very least, if the Buddhism kind of died out to the point where I couldn't be a monk anymore because I didn't have support, I would still follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Why? Because it's leading me somewhere, and because it's very beneficial to my life. It has helped my life and changed my life for so much positive that, and I've studied and studied and examined all these other ways of living, that I would still do it. Okay, so there's nothing after. Big deal, right? And you see this actually in the Kesaputtiya Sutta, the Kalama Sutta, where the Buddha, this is the sutta that's famous for where the people of Kalama are very confused because teachers come and they teach their doctrine. They say all the other doctrines are stupid. And so they ask the Buddha, Buddha has a good reputation. Let me ask him. And then the Buddha says, don't go by reports, by tradition, by books, by what the teacher says, etc., etc. So you might know that sutta from there. But at the back of that sutta, on the bottom of it, he says that when one practices this path, there are 4 assurances. And it goes something like, if there are, if you act skillfully, if you follow the path in this lifetime, and there is life after death, if there is rebirth, then you are doubly rewarded. If you practice the path in this life, and there is no rebirth, then here and now you live peaceful and content. Right? So the Buddha is saying it right there, right? Basically, you do this path one way or the other, you're going to have lots of benefit from it. And so then the other two of the four assurances, so Buddha says, if you do this practice now, and there is efficacy of action, meaning that there is a result of your actions, right? This is karma. Okay. Then you are doubly rewarded. If you do the practice and there is no karma, then here and now in this very life, you live with peace and contentment and non-ill will, right? So the Buddha is giving these four assurances is like, even if you don't believe, even if it doesn't exist, still do the path, right? So I don't think you would get kind of, at some point, Buddha says clearly that karma and rebirth are part of right view, right? So you're not getting to awakening without a right view. But you could probably go pretty far with it. I don't know. You wouldn't go to Sotapanna far. You wouldn't become a Sotapanna, but it would be beneficial to your life. Dao says faith can be good, but it can be a bit of a gamble. If one is lucky to have faith in the Buddha, great. But if one picks someone or something else, it can be a bit of a problem. Yeah, I guess. A millionaire makes a point that says to John about the Ajahn Brahmali thing. He says, well, it seems like he's really confident about it to me. And that could be it. That definitely could be it, that he's very confident. I think I have heard that one, Elaine. I'm not 100% sure. But I'm sure I have. So a millionaire says... I don't know. So we're just talking. We just have good conversation. Very good conversation between the people in the chat. I like it. I'm not going to read all of that. There's not enough time of the day for all these things. But talking about faith. Adriana doing some good mod work. Very good, Adriana. Or Sierra says, the teacher I was mentioning previously said that, for example, they don't believe that there is an actual Yama, god of death, and that you could be tortured in various ways when you die, like they mentioned. Well, yeah, that's, again, it's part of right view. And right view in this case shouldn't be used as a cudgel, like, oh, you should have right view. You should believe in these things. I know, but you could. This is kind of like where when people ask, like, can you be a Buddhist and a Christian at the same time? And my answer is yes, to a point, right? If you follow the Buddhist path to a point, which is usually Sotapanna, you're going to abandon all the other traditions because you've seen for yourself, right? You have reached to a level where you have full doubt in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the path, the fact that you're going to awakening, right? So you're not going to, you start to have right view. So you're not going to be involved in the other traditions, right? So it's the same thing here. You can say you don't believe in yama and all that, but on the other hand, yama is just a type of birth in samsara, like just like humans, just like this, just like what this teacher doesn't want to believe in is that there's a hell. Did you ask them if they believe in the heaven realms? Because obviously, because there's lots of reasons why people would not want to believe in a hell realm. Even Christians do. Like, what is there really a hell? No. Maybe there isn't. See, this is an interesting question as well, because I've thought a lot about this, and I've thought like King Yama, like the story that King Yama brings in is what the divine messengers, right? So King Yama is used as an example to help you practice skillfully. Think about the Asu Sutta, the Tear Sutta, right? Greater than all this, greater than all the water and all the great ocean is the amount of tears that you've shed losing loved ones throughout all your lives in samsara, right? You can say, that's bullcrap. Maybe it is. But on the other hand, what does that do? Think about that. What does it really do to your mind? Even if you don't believe it's literal, what if you acted that out? If you practice that every being you meet, you're related to in some way or another. 1,000 lifetimes ago, this person was my mother. 100 lifetimes ago, this person was my father. What does that do? It breaks down us versus them. It breaks down in group, out group. It develops metta, develops compassion, right? So even if you don't really believe, if you took that technique and used it, it would still be beneficial for you, right? I thought like this was kind of a big insight for me to realize this. Like, you know, and a cynical person would be like, oh, yes, this is the Buddha. The Buddha is just like, well, these people are stupid. So we have to couch it in a way that means they're going to be in different lives. But if I take this technique and make them believe, you know, they say, oh, this is in different lives, then they'll do it, right? And I'm not a cynic. I don't believe that. I think that's ridiculous. But even still, thinking in that way develops your mind in a certain way. Every person you meet, you've been related to in some life or another. Think about that. That's an interesting technique. That's an interesting thing to understand. What if it's true? Even if it's not, thinking about that way will allow you to live a lot more skillfully in the world. Even if you don't believe in King Yama, looking at the divine messengers is really going to be beneficial to you one way or the other. So Dao says he has a fun question. How hard is it reaching Sotapanna? For many people are like, oh, it seems I am this stage. Seeing it does not have many requirements. Daos, take it from somebody who's met thousands of people. The people who really think they're Sotapannas are usually pretty mentally ill. And I'm not saying this like to be mean or anything like that. Like there's a lot of kind of wacky people you meet, and they're like, "Oh, I'm in the fourth jhana. Oh, I'm a Sotipanna. Oh, I'm this," and you kind of watch them, and like, no, they probably need to have a therapist. That's the reality. So this is something that Sotipanna. How hard is it to become a Sotipanna? Depends on your previous lives, doesn't it? I mean, in the suttas, in the Vinaya, you have people becoming awakened at 7 years old. It's not like they were just amazing toddlers that they became awakened. It's because of the causes and conditions from their previous lives led for them to be awakened then. They probably did some bad karma or whatever that they would have been awakened in the last life, but they had to come back again as a kid and be an awakened kid. That's the way it goes, right? So how hard is it? It depends on your past lives, right? You don't know. It's not easy to get there. It's the beginning of the first level of awakening, right? So you have this stream, right? So the stream, this is the Buddha, the simile the Buddha uses. And a Sotipanna, so the Buddha says what? Few are the people who reach the further shore. Most people go up and down this shore, right? This is us, right? Unless there's any Sotipannas or awakened beings in the chat, in which case, why are you listening to me? But anyway, so this is us, right? Going up like this. And then you become a Sotipanna and you step in the stream, right? You've entered the stream. That's what it's called, the stream enterer. And then you're practicing Sotipanna, Sakadagami, once returner, Anagami, non-returner, and then you get onto this next, you get onto the opposite bank, you stand up, and you're an Arahant, right? So this is, it's very hard to decide to go into that stream. It's not an easy thing. And like you just don't know. I had like lots of dedication years back. Like I'm going to become awakened in this very life. But then I've kind of realized, like as I've more deeply understood dependent origination and the teachings, I'm like, wait, I don't really have a say in that. I don't know how many lifetimes I've practiced Buddhism before. How many lifetimes I've practiced Dhamma. I have no idea. It might not even be in the cards for me this life that I become a Sotipanna. It may be in the cards for me this life if I do things right that I could become awakened. I don't know. Right? So it's one of those which this is the stupidest way. I never understood this. This is aim for the moon. If you don't make it, you'll end up in the stars, which makes no sense. It should be like aim for the stars. Maybe if you don't make it, you'll end up on the moon or Mars. I don't know. But it's one of those things where it's like you practice a Noble Eightfold Path. You're moving forward. You're just doing the practice as earnestly, sincerely, and as zealously and as energetically as you can. And the rest is not up to you. Right? The rest is not like, that's why a Sotipanna it becomes awakened at max 7 lifetimes. Even if you're the most lazy Sotipanna, even if you have the worst bad karma that keeps getting thrown at you throughout your 7 lives, at the end of those 7 lives, you're done. Right? So it's not easy. But it's possible, and it's possible. Sotipanna, once returner, non-returner, very possible for lay people, right? Heck, I'd be happy. Bhante G calls becoming a stream enter money back guarantee, right? If I became a stream enter in this lifetime, I'd take it. I'd be very happy to become a stream mentor. Be better if I become awakened and make this the end. But I don't know. So all I can do is practice to the best of my ability. And wherever I get at the end of this lifetime is where I get. And that's all we can do. But if somebody tells you they're a Sotipanna, don't believe it. I had a friend, and I wonder if he's alive. I don't know. He kind of disappeared. He had a lot of health problems, physical health problems, and he just kind of disappeared. I haven't talked to him in years, but I had a friend who kind of, he had this conversation with me in front of Bhante Ji, and Bhante Ji said something. I don't remember what it was, but he talked to me afterwards, and he said, Bhante Ji knew I was a Sotipanna. I'm like, what? What? But the more I talked to him, and I had known him for a while, and I said, I mean, he's not a bad person. He's practiced. He's done a lot of practice. I mean, he's like one of those dudes that is like in Korea meditating on the top of the mountains and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And I was like, well, I mean, I suppose it's possible. At the very least, he's a very sincere, honest person whom I trust. Can I really know he's a Sotipanna? No. Right? Do I know anybody's a Sotipanna? Do I know anybody's an Arahant? No. Right? Only myself. Right? I know that I'm not a Sotipanna. Right? I know that I'm not an Arahant because I would know otherwise. Right? So just practice. Joe says, where does Christianity fit in, make sense with Buddhism? Okay, so this is I guess this is in relation to me talking about being a Christian and a Buddhist. I would say that in my studies, most religions in the world are fairly equivalent up to a certain point. Like they share a lot in relation to generosity, in relation to virtuous principles, right? Living a moral life, these kind of things. But a lot of that is very shared. I'm putting my anthropology degree together here to work here. And however, Buddhism is unlike pretty much almost every religion. A, because of the belief that there's no permanent soul, and B, because there's no reuniting with anything, right? Judeo-Christian belief, you want to be in heaven with God, right? Hindu belief, you want to reunite your Atman with Brahma. None of that in Buddhism. That's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to get the heck out of here, right? This is a very different ultimate goal than pretty much every religion that I've ever examined. Very different. And that being the case, there's different right views. There's different perspectives, right? So up to a certain level, you can be a Christian Buddhist. After that point, no, it's not going to work. Oh, another jump. Where am I here? Oh, there's 2 Joes on today. It's useful. Joe, okay, so Joe, I think is talking about, we were talking about when I was talking about the like the Tear Sutta, and like using that practice is useful even if you don't believe in it. So he says, Joe says, it's useful, but isn't it also important to believe in things that are cohesive with reality? Oh, but what's reality? That's the question, isn't it? That's the interesting question. How many dimensions are there? Is it 3? Or is it 11? Depends on which branch of physics you you favor, right? You know, quantum physics, all kinds of wacky stuff. And I usually don't go into science, but the reality is a pretty wacky thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm agnostic, because it's kind of like, who knows what the heck is out there? It's kind of weird. Even this is why, like, I remember watching a show, and it was, Neil deGrasse Tyson and Brian Greene and all these like people talking about string theory and all this stuff and multiple, multiverse, etc. And, they're like, there could be other dimensions, and there's, dinosaurs walking right. And they show a graphic of the dinosaurs walking and stuff like that. And years later, that came to my head when I was thinking of Devas, and I was like, whoa, wait a second. That actually would make Devas sense. Like if this string theory is actually real, there could be these beings that are just hanging out around us, right? But you can't see them, you can't hear them without the divine ear and the divine eye, right? Who the heck knows, right? So reality is an interesting question. I mean, I suppose we could take specific individual things and say, is this reality, is this not, and stuff like that, but which we don't have enough time for here. But Joe123 says, people that don't believe in gods are like ants walking across human foot and continue thinking they're the highest form of life when they walk across this weird feeling. Okay. Yeah, that's what some people believe about aliens. Like, aliens that are maybe 1 million or 1 billion years older than us. Like we would be like, ants essentially to them. A million, like it reminded me of like that old what movie is that? In Space, nobody can hear you scream, right? It's like a millionaire goes, in the internet, no one knows you are an arahant. Yeah, and people can claim they're arahants. They even have cards here, PhD, MA, MBA, arahant. These are my credentials. This is my my LinkedIn and my resume. Good conversation going on here. I like it. Douse, you crack me up. You crack me up, brother. Actually, I put in my resume, calm no matter what. One of these days, I'd like to test you. If I ever meet you in person, I'm going to break out all the Ajahn Chah tricks and really see if you... Oh, man. It's great. Adriana. Bhante, I've been trying to remember daily what you teach about everything teaching you, an opportunity being an opportunity. But something that can arise is this sort of guilt when doing fun or non-Dhamma related things. It's not silly. This seems to me like this like this Catholic Latino guilt, which I know the Catholic Italian guilt. This this Catholic Latino guilt for like everything coming out. What? You're not practicing Satipatthana when you're having fun? How could you? This is an outrage. You should feel horrible for yourself. No, so this is so observe, watch that, right? That is, that drive, that push can be good, but it also can be overbearing. Sometimes you just need to take a break. Jesus. Like even me as a monk, sometimes I just need to watch a YouTube video or something. Just be like, oh, okay, this thing is exhausting. Let me watch a thing about, space or something. I don't know. Sometimes you just have to take a break. It's okay. It's okay to have some fun. It doesn't always have to be practice, but after you reach a certain point, it's so second nature that you can have fun, but you could be doing anything. And I mean anything. Like you could even be engaged in sexual relations or whatever. You could be running, you could be skydiving, you could be doing all kinds of stuff, and mindfulness is there. Right? Observing is there. It's the way it is. But when it's not there, it's okay. You're not an arahant. You're not going to be perfect. And if your mind is driving you to be perfect, you got to watch out if that's an unskillful way. Observe that. This is unskillful. This is not helping me. This is making things worse. Right? You reflect on that. You say that to yourself. Right? And you try to let that go. Obviously, it'll take 1,000 times of reflecting on that to let it go. Maybe the first time. It's easier said than done, is what I'm trying to say. But it's doable, right? Overdoing, maybe you should watch more Ajahn Brahm. maybe you should practice lots of metta and compassion for yourself. Of course, it's a part of your mind that's just that is like kind of has been built into you, that no matter what it is, I'm sure your mind is going to browbeat you, right? So it's part of the practice to recognize that, to realize when it's unskillful, when it's harmful, and when maybe it's beneficial. That inner drill instructor, sometimes you need that drill instructor to get in and kick your butt so you get to moving. Sometimes that inner drill instructor can be too oppressive, and you have to bottle the inner drill instructor away for a better time. John, oh, don't get me talking about PhDs. It's a very important thing to understand. Intellectual knowledge does not equal wisdom. Doesn't matter how many PhDs, MBAs, MAs, whatever you get. Some of the least wise people I've ever met in my life had lots of all kinds of letters and titles by their name. My inner Catholic abuela. I love it. Yep. I mean, Adriana, like even as a layperson, I mean, like I did other things besides Buddhism, I mean, I did my Goruks and my marathons and and my traveling and my parkour and my skydive. I mean, I did all kinds of stuff. It was fun. I tried to enjoy life. I also tried to have mindfulness and practice, make it part of my practice as well. You can do both. All right. It's not easy to go against your conditioning. That's why the Buddha says that this practice goes against the stream. Not only your conditioning from previous lives, but your Catholic Latino life in this life, right? All your your cultural conditioning, familial conditioning, whatever, all these conditionings, environmental conditionings. Not easy to go against those. That's the way it is. It's hard, but we know what the Buddha says. What happens if you go and complain to the Buddha? Does anybody know? Type it in the chat. What happens if you go to the Buddha and say, but it's hard? This is, oh no, have a cookie. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do it. It's okay. No, what does he say? Who's going to type it first? Let's see. Yeah, Sierra, very good. They do it. My disciples do it even though it's hard. Exactly. Very good. Adriana, you're a little too slow on the draw this time, but very good. Okay, or a lag. But anyway, we should do some guided meditation now, I think. So this will bring us to about 9:40. Adriana letting that power go to her head a little bit. I don't know. Oh, good night, Douse. All right. Have a good rest of the night. Get some good sleep. Okay. As soon as I mentioned meditation, Douse, good night. Of course, it is like 3:00 in the morning for him, so he has an excuse. Anybody who's willing to stay up to 3:00 in the morning to be with us is always there's always an excuse for them. So when they leave, they leave. All right, friends, let's do our meditation. Set yourself up in a position that is good for you, that you prefer to use when you do your meditations. We'll start our body scanning by bringing our awareness to your feet. Try to see if you can contact any sensation or feeling in your feet, such as the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor. As you scan through the body from part to part, we want to try to observe these sensations and the position of that part of our body so that we can make sure that our posture is stable and comfortable. The more stable and comfortable we can make our posture at the beginning, the longer we will be able to sit with the least amount of pain. So in the beginning, it's good to move around and adjust as needed. Once you get into the breathing, you want to not move as much as possible. Bring your awareness up through your ankles and your calves. If you're ever having trouble trying to connect with a sensation, you can prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? Bring your awareness up through your knees and your thighs. Bring your awareness to your pelvis and buttocks, your hip area. Check to see that your hips are evenly distributed on the chair, the cushion, that the position of the pelvis is not causing the upper body to lean or slouch. Think of the lower body as setting up a firm foundation, like the foundation of a house. The firm foundation allows the house to rest on top of it. And so too, setting up your lower body in this stable and comfortable position allows the upper body to rest more comfortably with less pain. When you're done setting up your lower body, move your awareness up through your abs and your chest. Check to make sure that your shoulders are hanging loosely, not scrunched up and tight. Bring your awareness down through your elbows and hands. The elbows and hands can have an impact on the posture, like all the other parts of your body. So check to see that the elbows and hands are not causing your upper body to slouch or lean. And finally, bring your awareness to your head. Just check to make sure that the chin is parallel to the ground, that the head is resting comfortably on the upper body. And once you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let your body go and take 3 deep breaths. And then let the breath go. From here on in, you do not wish to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply abide with the breath, observing and investigating it. Watching as this body breathes in, watching as this body breathes out. Whenever you get distracted away from your breath, no need to get agitated or angry. It's simply your mind showing you how it works, showing you its craving. Whenever you get taken away from the breath, whether the mind wants to go to the past or the future, across the earth or the galaxy, whether there's an external sound or some kind of distraction, practice letting go of that distraction and return to the breath. Acknowledge the distraction, practice letting go, and return. Acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. From here on in, we'll do a guided meditation. We'll practice some bare awareness, meaning that we will not try to focus our awareness on one thing. So bring your awareness to your body. And when you're doing this practice, which is a good analog for mindfulness in daily life, you're not trying to seek out an object. You're allowing one to rise. When you do this, there will be something that will come up to your field of awareness. An itch, a pain, a pleasant feeling. And whatever comes up to your awareness most prominently, observe that. Try to observe, if you can, it as it's arising, as it persists, and then as it goes away. A thought arises, persists, then goes away. A sound arises, persists, and goes away. Feeling arises, persists, and goes away. Whatever is most prominent in your awareness, investigate that. If it's a bodily feeling, observe that sensations. Dive deep into it. Try to investigate it and see as much as you can. Then try to observe how that sensation affects your mind. What is the general state of the mind during you experiencing that sensation? What are the thoughts that arise? What impulses arise? Strong feelings to do an action. Try to observe whatever prominent experience arises in your field of vision, in your field of awareness. Observe it through all of these aspects, the body and the mind. And once it goes away, come back to this general awareness until another prominent feeling arises, and continue the process all over again. Observe how the mind and body interplays and is connected how a bodily feeling affects the mind, how a mental feeling affects the body. Try to investigate whatever phenomena arises to the best of your ability. All right, friends. Start to slowly move from the internal back to the external. Opening your eyes. Becoming aware of the room that you're in. The live stream. Dhamma friends in the chat. Elaine says, "Suck it up, buttercup," before she left. That's a good way to end, I suppose. All right. So if you have any questions or anything in the last 10 minutes or so, you're more than welcome to type it in the chat. But as we traditionally do, we usually spend the last 10, 15 minutes just chilling out, reading some Samyutta Nikaya verses. So we are on, where are we? 223. Well, Adriana, that's basically what I did for the first 7 years of my practice. Exactly what I told you. I just kind of just sat there, and whatever arose, I investigated it, and I observed it, and I watched it, and then it went away. And then something else arose. There's always usually something that arises that makes most prominent. Boom. Like, okay, well, this is what I'm paying attention to. And that's essentially what I did. And that's basically Satipatthana. That's really what it is. And so this is basically what I did. That's, first 7 years of my practice, real practice. The first couple of years were kind of on and off, hard, trying to do mindfulness of breathing. It's not working, yada, yada. After I came back, and I was like, after I found Ajahn Brahm and I came back, and I was just sort of, okay, I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm just going to sit and I'm just going to practice this. And it brought me pretty far. So it's a good practice. It's just, I don't know what choiceless awareness is. And I wanted to use a better word than bare awareness. Just like John says, he was worried it was bare awareness. It's bear awareness month. Be careful of the bears in the wilderness. Yeah. Teddy bear awareness, as Ajahn Brahm says. There you go. Yeah. So it's a powerful practice. If mindfulness of breathing is a real struggle for you, I mean, you could do that. It's not really something suggested. Like, I mean, this was before I was a Buddhist. So it wasn't like I was like, I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to do this. No, it's just what I did. It's what I did. It was still beneficial. And it's basically was the basis for my mindfulness meditation, my mindfulness practice. But I would suggest sticking with Anapanasati if you can, while you're sitting. Because you can practice the same way every other minute of the day, right? Anapanasati is good for when you're sitting. All right, let's do our reading. With Siri. Or no, actually it would be Siri. Not the, what is that, the iPhone? Right, because Alexa's the Amazon one, right? I don't know these things. I don't ask AI stuff anymore. But anyway, with Siri. Standing to one side, the god Siri addressed the Buddha in verse. Both gods and humans enjoy their food. So what's the name of the spirit who doesn't like food? Huh. Interesting. It says, so what's the name of the yaka who does it? It's yaka. What's the name of the yaka who doesn't like food? Those who give with faith and a clear and confident heart partake of food in this world and the next. So you should dispel stinginess, overcome that stain, and give a gift. The good deeds of sentient beings support them in the next world. It's incredible, sir. It's amazing how well said this was by Master Gotama. He repeated the verse and said, and then, so once upon a time, sir, I was a king named Sari, a giver, a donor, who praised giving. I gave gifts at the four gates to ascetics and Brahmins, to paupers, vagrants, travelers, and beggars. Then the ladies of my harem approached me and said, Your Majesty, give gifts, but we don't. Your Majesty gives gifts, but we don't. Your Majesty, please support us to give gifts and make merit. Then it occurred to me, I'm a giver, a donor who praises giving. When they said we would give gifts, what am I to say? And so I gave the first gate to the ladies of my harem. There they gave gifts, while my own giving dwindled. Then my aristocrat vassals approached me and said, Your Majesty gives gifts. The ladies of your harem gives gifts, but we don't. Your Majesty, please support us to give gifts and make merit. Then it occurred to me, I'm a giver, a donor who praises giving. When they say we should give gifts, what am I to say? And so I gave the second gate to my aristocrat vassals. There they gave gifts while my own giving dwindled. That's interesting. Now, is his own giving dwindled because he's giving all the gifts to the harem and the advisors to give away? Or are the harem and the advisors giving away their own gifts? I don't know. It's interesting. All right. Then my troops approached me and said, Your Majesty gives gifts. The ladies of your harem gives gifts. Your aristocrats give gifts. But we don't. Your Majesty, please support us to give gifts and make merit. Then it occurred to me, I'm a giver, a donor who praises giving. When they say we should give gifts, what am I to say? So I gave the third gate to my troops. Could you imagine a city like this? All these different groups of people at the different gates giving gifts. It's pretty cool, actually. I like it. All right. Then they gave gifts while my own giving dwindled. Then my Brahmins and householders approached me and said, Your Majesty gives gifts. The ladies of your harem give gifts. Your aristocrat vassals give gifts. Your troops give gifts, but we don't. Your Majesty, please support us to give gifts and make merit. Then it occurred to me, I'm a giver, a donor, one who praises giving. When they say we would give gifts, what am I to say? And so I gave the fourth gate to my Brahmins and householders. There they gave gifts while my own giving dwindled. Then my men approached me. My men? What about, wasn't that the soldiers? Let me see here. Oh, really? It is just men. Okay. I don't know where that comes from. Then my men approached me. Now your Majesty is not giving gifts at all. When they said this, I said to those men, So then my men send half of the revenue from the outer districts to the royal compound. Then give half right there to the ascetics and Brahmins, to paupers, vagrants, travelers, and beggars. Sir, for a long time I made so much merit and did so many skillful deeds, I never reached any limit so as to say, there's this much merit, or there's this much result of merit, or for so long I'll remain in heaven. It's incredible, sir. It's amazing how well this was said by Master Gotama. Those who give with faith and a clear and confident heart partake of food in this world and the next. So you should dispel stinginess, overcome that stain, and give a gift. Good deeds of sentient beings support them in the next world. It's quite an interesting sutta. Really, this is like pretty unique to be honest with you. I mean, I've read a lot of sutras on giving. I mean, obviously, I read this years and years ago because I read through all this Samyutta Nikaya. But, it's pretty interesting. All right. His homies. I guess that's a response to when I said his men. Where's it Purisa. So, I mean, literally it says his men. I don't know. Maybe it was his homies, I guess. I don't know. All right. So, let's do one more. We'll do one more. It's Gatikara, number 24. We know who Gatikara is, right? Oh, no, wait. This is a different Gatikara because Gatikara was... Oh, no, wait. No. Jotipalo was Gatikara's friend, and Jotipalo was the Buddha. So this is Gatikara. Remember the story of Gatikara, who in the time of the previous Buddha tried to keep getting his friend Jotipalo, who was the Buddha of this Buddha Gautama, to see this Buddha, right? So this is Gatikara, who's still chilling in heaven here. So standing to one side, the god Gatikara recited to this verse to the Buddha's presence. 7 mendicants reborn in Avia have been freed, and with the complete ending of greed and hate. They've crossed over, clinging to the world. Who are those who've crossed over the bog, death's domain, so hard to pass? Who, after leaving behind the human body, have arisen above celestial yokes? Upaka and Palaganda and Pukusati, these 3. Badya and Baddadeva and Bahudanti and Pingya. They, after leaving behind the human body, have arisen above celestial yokes. You speak well of them who have let go of the snares of Mara, whose teaching did they understand to cut the bonds of rebirth. None other than the Blessed One, none other than your instruction. It was your teaching that they understood to cut the bonds of rebirth. Where name and form cease with nothing left over, understanding this teaching, they cut the bonds of rebirth. The words you say are deep, hard to understand, so very hard to wake up to. Whose teaching did you understand to be able to say such things? In the past, I was a potter in Vebalinga, called Gatikara. I took care of my parents as a lay follower of the Buddha Kassapa. I refrained from sexual intercourse. I was celibate, spiritual. We lived in the village. We lived in the same village. In the past, I was your friend. I am the one who understands that these 7 mendicants have been freed. With the complete ending of grief and greed and hatred, they've crossed over, clinging for the world. That's exactly how it was, just as you say, Bhagava. In the past, you were a potter named... Interesting. Okay, just looking at the Pali, just making sure, there's no like Buddha says, Gatikara says, so sometimes it's confusing. So anyway, in the past, you were a potter named in Vebalinga, called Gatikara. You took care of your parents as a lay follower of Buddha Kassapa. You refrained from sexual intercourse. You were celibate, spiritual. We lived in the same village. In the past, you were my friend. That's how it was when those friends of old meet again. Both of them have developed themselves and bear their final body. Ah, very good. Okay, friends. So we come to the end of this Dhammapalooza. So let us do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, huntu sabbe pipaniyo, ettavatta cha mehi sampatang punya sampatang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya, akasato chabumata deva naga mahiddika, punyam tang anumoditva charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fearful fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit that we thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends, so we come to the end of Dhammapalooza. In the beginning, I explained that we have 3 Dhammapaloozas left before I go on a hiatus. So I'm going to be gone for about 4 months. Pretty much, so no Dhammapaloozas, no regular stuff on the channel. But we still have 3 more weeks for that until that happens. And then also, we are still doing Morning Monastery Experience until that time as well. So Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday on this channel, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. You can join us if you like for 20 minutes to a half hour of chanting, precepts, and a little Dhamma talk. And then hopefully I'll see you next week. So friends, until next time, may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful week. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well.